Hello everybody and welcome back to CBR MTG. This is our format shifted deck tech series and today we're going to be looking at Amulet Titan. And for this one we have brought Jake onto the field. Hi Jake.
Hey guys, how you going?
Today we're going to be going through Amulet Titan in Modern and Amulet Titan in Legacy and then possibly some different changes that you can make. But Jake's been playing Amulet Titan for...
maybe a year and a half now.
And he knows the ins and outs. He's been playing it for quite some time and has taken it to, a GP or two. So pass it over to Jake and we'll talk about how Amulet Titan in Modern works and, how does it tick?
People who have been around a while has probably known Amulet Titan as Amulet Bloom, back when Summer Bloom was legal in Modern. 2 mana green spell that allows you to play 3 extra land drops a turn, which made for some seriously broken games of Magic, where you could land a Hive Mind or a Primeval Titan on turn 2, and your opponent just couldn't really deal with this, so fair enough it gets banned. So then it sort of saw the downtick, and now it's making a resurgence again. It's been putting up some good numbers. I'm really happy to see it back on top of a few big tournaments. So the basics of Amulet Titan is the best way to think of it is a mid-range deck with explosive combo turns. It's a Primeval Titan deck. You're looking to ramp out as quickly as possible with Explores, Asusa Lospus Seekings, and of course the Sakura Tribe Elder, which is the new addition to the deck, pretty much replacing Summer Bloom. Then once you've landed your Primeval Titan, if the coast is clear, you've got an Amulet, you start going in for the kill, trying to loop a couple more Titans. Or if you're playing against a control deck or they've got some mana open and you need to play around something, you go find some utility lands, or you find a Talaria West, a couple of bounce lands or something like that, just to reload your next Titan.
It really hinges on the Karoo lands from original Ravnica, Boros Garrison, and
you've got your
Gruul
Turf, you've got Selesnya's Sanctuary, and the big one is Simic Growth Chamber.
So these ones are named after the original land called Karoo, which taps for 1, but you have to bounce a land back to your hand. These ones tap for 2, but you have to bounce a land back to your hand. So how you're abusing it is you're using Amulet of Vigor, which is a 1 mana artifact that says if a permanent will come onto the battlefield tapped,
under your control, untap it.
Yeah.
So this also stacks, which is very important, because if you've got multiple of amulets on the battlefield, then you can produce a stupid amount of mana.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go sort of like Amulet Vigor turn 1, turn 2, another Amulet, and then Explore, and then that means that you can play a bounce land, untap it, tap it for mana, untap it, tap it for mana, bounce it back to your hand, play it again, and then you're generating... That generates you 6 mana, and that gets you to prime time on turn 2, which is incredibly fast for Modern. So, I mean, if the coast is clear and you're not versing any interaction, you can almost get a turn 2 win from this, can't you?
Yeah, what you just described is the ideal turn 2 kill.
So we'll go through the combo portion of the turn, which is the main deal. So as I said before, you Primeval Titan on the battlefield on turn 2.
Yep. Once Primeval Titan lands on the battlefield, then you've got your search triggers to resolve. If your opponent's shields are down, then you can start making him a hasty boy by fetching out Slayer's Stronghold, and the Boros Garrison gives you prime time, +2/+0, vigilance and haste. A lot going on in one card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you get to attack, obviously, and then once you do, fetch out a couple more lands. The real power of this deck comes from all the silver bullets that are in it, both in its lands and its spells. Having access to main deck graveyard hates such as Bazooka Bog, you've got your Gross Quarters, Grove of the Burn Willows, which gives you some play against Death's Shadow, but it is also, more importantly, a turn 1 untapped green source. Also providing some red mana for some cards out of the sideboard. Colony Garden providing some protection against Liliana of the Veil. Any other sack outlets, which there aren't too many crawling around Modern at the moment. Radiant Fountain against Burn, which being able to land a Radiant Fountain, bounce it with a bounce land, and then play again is just backbreaking for them, because once you start looping them, then they can't win through that. Then you've got your Vesuva. Vesuva is a very sweet card. I've managed to copy opposing Celestial Colonnades with it, and that's managed to grind me out through that. But more importantly, it provides a second quote-unquote Boros Garrison, which helps activate your Sunhome Legion of the Fortress, which is of course the double strike land. Those are the silver bullets of the lands, but the silver bullets in the deck, such as Walking Ballista, Pact of Negation, and Engineered Explosives, all fetchable through Talaria West. This deck has a lot of ins and outs, It is very sweet.
Talaria West being the land that transmutes for anything that costs 0. So
Yep.
because you've got a lot of silver bullets, as you mentioned before, even one of Cavern of Souls, which you don't often see in many decks, and you don't have a tribal synergy at all, so you will be naming lots of different things with Cavern of Souls. Because you have the ability to bounce it back to your hand, you get so much value of being able to play Cavern of Souls, name Giant, get Prime Time on the battlefield, or name Human for Azusa Lost but Seeking, or Elf for Rexage. But the power really comes from those 3 Talaria West that you mentioned before.
Yeah, that's it.
So as we mentioned before, Talaria West gives you a lot of benefit with all your 0-drop things, as you mentioned before. The Summoner's Pact to get, so you can go Talaria West, which is noticeably an ability on a card, so it can't be countered.
No.
So you can use Talaria West to get Pact of Negation to protect your combo, Summoner's Pact to get your Prime Time, Engineering Explosives for a little bit of protection, and also Walking Ballista for a little bit of protection.
Yep.
So that's basically a run through of the Amulet Titan deck. We'll list a more detailed run through from TCG Pretty Deece, which I thought was a fantastic showing of what that deck was trying to do. And if you wanted to follow it in the show notes, we'll provide it through. But let's go into a deck tech for Legacy Amulet Titan. So this Legacy Titan deck comes to us from Large Father of MTG Salvation, and we'll also link those in the show notes. But basically, it's pretty different, but it hasn't made any huge splashes. But if you're looking to get into Legacy from Modern and you own Amulet Titan in Modern, you only stand to lose about $500 converting, and most of that will be in dual lands. So in this list, you gain the dual lands, so you gain 2 Bayous and a Tiger, which could also be Tropical Island, depending on what you want to play. But if you're still a little bit more conscious of a budget, you can definitely forgo the dual lands. But otherwise, you get Green Sun Zenith, which is a huge powerhouse, being able to ramp yourself into, being able to ramp and then get in toolbox creatures, giving you a little bit of extra toolbox attitude, getting your Azusa Lost but Seeking. You can fetch out a Dryad Arbor on turn 1. You can get your Prime Time if you have enough mana, and secure a Tribe Scout to sort of help yourself ramp into what you need to do. So Green Sun Zenith, definitely a huge play for this deck.
Sylvan Safekeeper also being one of the options. That, unfortunately, is not modern legal. Otherwise, it would be a snap include. Being able to protect your Titans is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. You also get Natural Order, which is a 4-mana sorcery spell that says sacrifice a green creature, search your library for a green creature, put it onto the battlefield. So basically, you can go turn 1 Green Sun Zenith, get Dryad Arbor, and then turn 2 nothing, I suppose, and then turn 3 play Natural Order, sacking your Dryad Arbor, getting a Prime Time, and that sort of gives you a little bit of toolbox attitude as well. In this list also from Large Father, we have Worldspine Worm, which is a very interesting creature that's very hard to kill. It's a 11 mana, 8 green for a creature worm with trample, and when it dies, you create 3 5/5 green worm creature tokens with trample, and then when it's put into the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it. So a good sort of backup plan if you can't go the Prime Time route. This deck has all the pieces that you need, and being able to also utilize Crop Rotation, which is a 1-mana instant for green, where you basically do the same thing as Natural Order. You sacrifice a land, search your library for a land, put it onto the battlefield. So at instant speed, you can actually get your Bazooka Bog or your...
Very common play patterns you see in Legacy lands.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
One thing we haven't touched on is that you get access to Summer Bloom once again. So this opens the door for Hive Mind being a thing again. The reason that Hive Mind is not really viable in the modern version of this deck is because Summer Bloom is banned.
Yeah, so because you get Summer Bloom, you actually have the benefit of ramping into your Hive Mind or your Primeval Titan a lot earlier, and that's something that was too good for Modern and was banned. And as a sort of recurring theme that you'll see in our sort of deck tech videos from good Modern decks turned into bad Legacy decks is you get the banned cards. And Summer Bloom, not banned in Legacy, and also hugely powered up with a couple of backup plans with the Worldspine Worm as mentioned before, but also your toolbox gets a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, in your lands package, because this is a Primeval Titan deck, you are able to search out your silver bullets, as we've already touched on. In this case, we get some cool things like Dark Depths and Thespian Stage, a combo that I am very much in love with. You also get maybe a Sajiri Step to help protect your Marilage or your Primeval Titan or any other big threat you want to protect. One thing you also get to play is Grove of the Burn Willows. Obviously banned in Modern because it's too powerful of a combination with Grove and Punishing Fire. This is also something you will get access to in Legacy. Also made very popular by their lands strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that gives you like a little bit of inevitability. So Punishing Fire and Grove of the Burn Willows comboing up very well, but too powerful for Modern. You also have the opportunity to sort of go, and I mean, we'll link this deck list in the description as well, but you get so many different options. Like you could play Exploration as well, a Conspiracy enchantment that...
No, it was originally Urza Saga.
Urza Saga, there you go. Yeah, going down on sort of different sort of lands package. Yeah. You could also play Show and Tell, which is seeing a lot of strength in Legacy as a whole, but being able to Show and Tell your Primeval Titan pretty quickly is a nice sort of alternate way to get there. Yep. And you also have access to a lot of strong blue cards that Legacy really prides itself on, like Ponder and Flusterstorm. So why would you play this over any other Legacy deck? Now, obviously, the goal of our videos, this series, is to give you an option to jump into Legacy from Modern. So that's basically the main reason. If you played Summer Bloom, if you played Bloom Titan before Summer Bloom was banned, this is a great way to sort of relive that, relive those heydays by being able to play, by being able to play Summer Bloom again.
So one of the main advantages is, well, the Modern list is not very expensive. There are no fetches, no shocks. Your creatures are relatively cheap, so all your spells. So that tucks in nicely. One thing that you might not need in the Legacy build is your dual lands. If you need a cheap substitute, stick with the shock lands. One of the main strengths of the deck is that the lands don't do any damage to you.
Yeah, as you mentioned, a huge benefit of playing Legacy in general is that if you do have the money for duels and you want to jump in, then you don't have to take the shock land route. And I mean, this is sort of Legacy in a nutshell, is that it's less aggressive, it's more grindy as a format. I mean, obviously you can have your turn one combos and something that you've got to look out for. Because you're not succumbed to basically starting on 15 or 14 life due to your shock lands, you have a little bit more chance of going further and grindier, and this deck has the potential to be a very, very grindy deck.
Yeah. One thing we've talked about is the positives of playing the deck in Legacy, but one of the negatives of playing this deck is Wasteland. When you're playing the Modern version, seeing an opposing Field of Ruin, Tectonic Edge, or Ghost Quarter is something that you really have to play around with the Sakura Tribe Scout or what lands you expose to that land hate on the battlefield. Having Wasteland in the format where this is a land-based deck is very excruciating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with the Turbo Depth variant, which is basically trying to put Marilage onto the battlefield as fast as possible, they sort of preempt that with Pithing Needles, and we do see some of these in the sideboard for this Legacy Titan deck. It's something to keep in mind for sure. You want to be able to protect yourself from Wasteland being one of the very most prevalent lands in
pretty much the Legacy staple.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned before, $700-ish for a Titan list, which is pretty expensive, but if you wanted to jump into Legacy, you almost had a double up on price with about $1,300, $1,400. And most of that is in the dual lands. So as we mentioned before, you can take the downgrade. You can just add the Green Sun Zenith, the Crop Rotation, the Natural Orders, and Ponders and Summer Blooms, and then you basically have a Legacy deck. And you can make those alterations if Legacy's big in your city and you just wanted to sort of test out the Legacy scene. Moving on from that, if you saw this deck and you liked it, or maybe you just wanted to play something a little bit more different, and maybe you were a little bit more enfranchised, you could possibly look into Blue-Green Titan Post. So this is the Legacy version that is actually putting up results, and if you didn't want to just play Amulet Titan, you could definitely consider this version. So Blue-Green Titan, and we have played it on stream before. If you check out our Lazy Sunday Legacy stream replay, I'll link that in the show notes as well if you want to see it given a test run. But basically what this deck does is it uses Cloud, Post, and Glimmer Post to actually sort of ramp into Tron a little bit easier and a little bit simpler. So Cloud Post enters the battlefield tapped, and it taps for an amount of colorless land equal to the amount of locusts lands in play. So because you have 4 and 4 Glimmer Posts, which just gain life equal to the amount of Locusts you have in play, you can use the first Cloud Post only taps for 1, the second Cloud Post or Glimmer Post taps for 2 each, and then you sort of ramp up from there. So that's a sort of basic version, and you can go colorless Cloud Post. This is like an actual, somewhat established archetype in Legacy, but you can splash the blue and the green for Show and Tell and Primeval Titan, and then sort of go on from there. So basically the difference between that is you just drop the Summer Bloom Amulet package, and you just bring in the more Glimmer Posts, and you play like an Ulamog and an Emrakul, and then you're playing Brainstorms, Ponders, Show and Tells, Abrupt Decays, Pithing Needles, Expedition Map, those sorts of things. So this deck, a lot more expensive, but mostly because of the $3,000 Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale in the sideboard.
Yeah, some lists also run the Candelabra, which is also
very
nice
expensive.
dent in your wallet.
Yeah, 100%. So you could see spending up to $7,000 on a deck like this, but as we said, you can make budget considerations if you didn't want to shell out for a Tabernacle or a Candelabra or that sort of thing. So that's Legacy Titan, and that's Blue-Green Titan as well, Blue-Green Cloud Post. If you like what you've seen so far, please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on twitch.tv/CBR MTG if you wanted to catch more streaming. We do streaming on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jake, for showing us how it's done.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.